Well, hi again, everybody, and welcome to another episode of 100 Yards of Football. I'm Harper LaBelle along with Bob Case, and this is the Sports Page with Bob Case. And to our right, you will recognize one of the more famous Trojans of all time. Anthony Davis is our special guest today. Before we get to Anthony, I would like to mention that there are a couple of things that we love to share here on the show, and one of them is the Lee Haney Games. Lee Haney, yes, he's the 8-time Mr. Olympia champion. On November 1st, he's hosting the Lee Haney Games at the Gas South District in Duluth. If you're a bodybuilder and you're looking to qualify for the Mr. Olympia Championships, this is one way to do that. If you just want to watch some of the greatest athletes perform and be around some of the strongest and best looking folks that are on the planet, you can be a part of that as well. The Lee Haney Games have a Mr. Olympia qualifier. There's a deadlift competition. There's also a cornhole competition and a fit kids that are all a part for every age group. If you'd like to be a part of it, go to LeeHaneyGames.com. There's a celebrity golf tournament on November 30th at the Country Club of Gwinnett to help raise money for the Haney Heritage House, which helps to provide all sorts of educational and much needed items for some underprivileged children. LeeHaneyGames.com for all the details. I'd also like to say thank you to the folks. If you are going to play in that tournament and you would like to know a little bit more about your golf game, The Nine Golf is the place to go. The Nine, spell it out, Nine Golf. You can get your club speed, you can get trajectory, you can get angles on your slice, your exit velocity rate. All of that is available to you now indoors. The9golf.com. They have the TrackMan 4 system and the Golf VX as well. They have an undulating surface so that if the ball is high, the ball is low, the ball is at a forward angle, backward. All of these things are new in the video golf era. Virtual golf is taking over. Their tournament is this weekend on September 6th. So please sign up if you're interested. The9golf.com for details. Thank you very much for that, Bob. I appreciate your patience. We've talked to a guy that you've known for decades and a guy that's been an influence on many a Trojan fan's life for a very, very long time. Would you please have the honor of introducing our guest today?
Yeah, thanks, Harper. And it's really going to be a lot of fun to have a guy that I've known since 1972 and one of my all-time favorite people, let alone favorite characters. I've always said AD has always danced to his own music, always. And I've always liked characters, and he is definitely fits the bill. Besides having the greatest game I've ever seen in my life, and there's so many things I can tell you about him. Like as Harper and I were discussing when he left SC, he was number 1 in rushing, and the only two people today, 2025, he's number 3 in all-time rushing. And there's only 2 guys ahead of him, Charles White and Marcus Allen, who played 4 years, and he was only allowed to play 3 back then. And he still holds the all-time kick return record for over 20 yards kick on the average, and I believe, and I think I think AD can correct me. I think he holds the NCAA record for kickoff returns. But to this, after all these years. But more important, what a wonderful guy. I've been around him for years. I've seen him in many different situations over the years, and he's always carried himself with class and dignity. As I've seen him mobbed by thousands of people. Never did I see him refuse an autograph. Never did I see him ever act like a jerk. And that's why I've always loved him, and there's a lot of crap he had to go through, which other athletes didn't, and I was right there to witness it. But that's enough out of me. I just want to hear from our guest because there's a lot of stuff to cover about his life. But it's been a great life, and he's without a doubt the greatest. And forget his baseball skills. I think he was drafted 3 or 4 times in the big leagues by the Twins, the Orioles, and different teams. And Rod Dato told me that he could have had a 15-year career in the big leagues had he chose. He was a 5-tool player. He could hit for average. He could hit for power. He had a great throwing arm. He could run like a deer, and he was a terrific fielder. So, that's like a 5-tool player, and but he chose football. But, everything happens in life for a reason. But I'm just glad he's healthy, he's around, and I whenever I'm around him, I laugh, and that's all I can tell you. It's been since 1972 I've been laughing. So that's why I love him. Thanks.
Anthony, welcome to the show. We appreciate you having you on with us. You're at Planet Books there in Signal Hill, California. Tell us a little bit about your relationship with the folks there.
Well, I would come down here and see the owner a lot of the time. He's passed away now, and I would do some autograph shows with him and watch how he sells all his books and sports memorabilia. And I was telling Bob that one of his people that he represented over the years was Casey Stengel. It's a great autograph. I got to get that thing for him over here. And the guy that runs and owns it now is by the name is James. But I frequent this place. It's a wealth of information, books, sports memorabilia, you name it.
Well, great to have you be a part of the show, and obviously memorabilia and your contribution to the USC factor in that is as large as anybody. A general impression on my mind, because we'll talk about it, some games that I got to see when I was a kid, but when you were younger, Anthony, let's start with, when did sports become an important part of your life? Was there Little League Baseball? Were you a Pop Warner football player? Did you do CYO basketball, or were there other types of things that you said, man, I love running around and I'm pretty good at it?
Well, I give my mother a lot of the credit for starting me in baseball. I mean, my mother could switch hit, and she's the one that taught me how to switch hit. And she'd take us to a place called San Fernando Park, and she would we would play ball together. And I saw my mother jump on the left side, then I saw her jump on the right side. I said I could do that, and not knowing that's where my beginnings was, and I was like 5, 6 years old.
Did you ever get teased by any of your buddies because you couldn't strike out mom?
No, I didn't get teased about it, but if I got out of line, she knew how to swap me.
Yeah, okay.
That's about it.
So from the earliest age, right, 5, 6, 7 years old, you're playing. Remember in the Bad News Bears, the Chico's bail bond uniform. I don't know who your team was, but were you switch hitting with a Hillerich and Bradbury 27-inch bat back in the day?
That was it, about 26, 27 inches.
Yeah.
And my mother said I would swing at everything, pick up anything, and throw it, and that's how we started. My brother was right below me and stuff. He wasn't really gifted with a lot of my tools, but I was motivated more about her and stuff. And my father stepped in and he was there as well.
Okay. So baseball early on. When did you start playing football?
Started playing football. The story with football is that was our little league, the Bronco baseball. We went to New Bedford, Massachusetts for the World Series in baseball. And then when we came back after getting defeated, all the kids in the neighborhood wanted to was playing football. And I didn't think much of football, because I thought if anything was going to happen with me, it's going to be baseball. But I wanted to be part of that, and I asked my father, I would like to play Pop Warner football. And then money was tight in those years and stuff, and he said, well, I don't know if we can do it. I don't know if we can afford it. And in some kind of way, he raised it, and that's how I started playing football. But I never was a starter. I was never a key person. I was just hanging out with all the fellas. I mean, I was not that good in football. Matter of fact, I was a defensive back. I was a backup quarterback, and that was about it. And it was like that for 2 years with me and stuff. And then when I entered into junior high school, it was still there, but it was all baseball. And I kept improving in baseball, improving. And then in football, how that really escalated through junior high school, was like flag football. Then when I got to high school, my 10th grade year, I was out in the outfield throwing the baseball around. A guy by the name of Pat Harrington, our assistant coach, he saw me throwing the baseball. And he said, wow, you can come on for the football team and be a backup quarterback. I said, oh no, coach, I didn't really play in Pop Warner. I was a bench warmer. I didn't play. He said, well, but you have a nice arm, and I think you can be a good addition to the football team. And I thought about it for a minute, and so then the next week, and I discussed it with my mother. Said, well, go try it and find out what you can do. So that was my beginnings in football. But what happened in my 10th grade as well we were playing a high school by the name of Polytechnic High School out here in the San Fernando Valley, 20, 30 miles out of Los Angeles. And both San Fernando High School, the school that I attended, and Polytechnic High School were ranked 1 and 2 in the country,
Wow.
1 and 2 in the city.
Yeah.
So I remember and I thought it was a big deal. I'm with the varsity team, and the coach wanted me. So I thought just hanging out was just good enough for me, because I thought my career was going to be in baseball, if anything. So the first quarter of the game, I remember the quarterback's name. His name was Harvey Sneed, big kid, 6'2", 195 pounds, and back then in high school, huge. And here I am, was 5'6'7", 145 pounds, wet. All of a sudden, the guy breaks his leg. Middle of the first quarter. And right away, he says, Coach says, Davis, you got to get in there.
Davis, get in. But
I said, what? And so I get in there, and my teammate Manfred Moore, who grew up on the same street with me,
yeah,
became a teammate of mine at USC and went on to play with the Raiders, Super Bowl champ.
Yep.
And he was guiding me through the whole game. And because I wasn't really focused on that, because I didn't expect to play. I was just a member of the team. And he told me everything to do, every play. And if I stumbled, he would help me. And so what happened was, I guided the team to a 7-7 tie. And that was my beginning in high school in football. And that's all I can tell you.
Well, I would imagine there's a change of direction for you in the amount of time that you're playing and how you focus and all that. But let's go back first. You said New Bedford, Massachusetts. Tell us about this experience where you go to the Little League World Series. Talk about that.
Well,
how old were you when that happened?
Back in those days, in the mid '60s, all the black fathers had a situation where the area was segregated.
Okay.
The city of San Fernando didn't allow blacks to play, and then there was an all-white league across the street. They didn't allow us to play, and so what they did, they leased some land from the county of Los Angeles, and we had to build our own baseball field. And then we were part of the Baseball Incorporated, the Bronco Baseball League. It had Bronco, Colt Baseball League. And so the Bronco League, it was Bronco, the Pony, and Colt. So I was in the Bronco League, 12 years old. We one of the top little teams pretty much in the country.
Yeah.
And what happened was, we started in the tournament, played San Pedro, won that series, and went to Bountiful, Utah, which was very segregated at the time. And then from Bountiful, Utah, we went to New Bedford, Massachusetts.
Wow.
When we got to the final game, we got beat. Alabama won the World Series that year, but we were close to them. And with that, 1965, that was a great little team. And I was a switch hitter, and that was it. I mean, it was some great players out there. I mean, it was like 4 players out there that ended up getting drafted down the road professionally.
Wow.
And I was one of those 4.
Well, Anthony, I would imagine too, as an 11 or a 12-year-old, even if you're just getting ready to turn 13 and you're in a 12U league, that type of travel, the exposure, getting to play against other kids that are probably better than the other San Fernando kids that you went, not all of them, but I'm just saying it gave you a different perspective about there's a bigger, broader country out here that and I can play at that level. Was there a confidence builder for you in that respect?
Well, my confidence, from my perspective, the confidence came through our ability. We knew we were good.
Okay.
And the thing is, we knew we had some obstacles to fight and stuff. Because you got to remember, back in the '60s, we're still talking Jim Crow, and we didn't get to play against a lot of the white teams and stuff back then. It was segregated. But when we got to the tournament play, they had no choice to play us.
Okay.
So we knew that we could play with anybody. We knew how good we were,
Yeah.
and we knew from at the age that we were, we knew something wasn't right. And like across the street from the park, we said we were always wondering, we were 11, 12 years old. How come we cannot play in a ballpark like that? And how come we can't play against these teams here?
Right.
Well, back in those years, they said, no, that's not going to happen. And it was segregated. Segregation was the key back then. It was awful. But I mean, we lived through it. We didn't understand it and why. But some of the kids said, well, because the parents used to always prepare them for that kind of situation.
So that, I mean, from a very early age, the strength of your athletic ability mixed with the separation of, well, I can't cross the street, I can't get a drink of water from this fountain or go to this restroom, I can't eat in this establishment. And you went to Utah, you said, you went back to Massachusetts. You got to experience that firsthand from a very early age. What was that like for you, dealing with that and just going, man, I just want to play. I want to play against this guy or that guy. What was that like for you?
Well, we knew we could play. But like, for example, across the street from the park, you talk about a serene, beautiful park. I mean, we struggled. I mean, in terms of the ballpark and where we played and stuff. Across the street, it looked like a miniature Dodger Stadium. That's how beautiful the park was. But we couldn't play over there. Then once we got out of that area and playing in the tournament, everything got better. The parks were better and stuff like that. When we went to Bonneville, Utah, back in this 1965, we weren't allowed to stay in the hotels. So what happened was the families had to create a situation where they would take in a couple of kids each on the team. And some of the people who allowed that to happen caught hell in the neighborhood for allowing that.
Wow.
So that's something that I will never forget. We ended up winning that tournament to go to the World Series, but it wasn't as bad back east as like it was on the west at the time.
Yeah. And you're 12. You're not dealing with the what would we call that? Not the politics necessarily, but just the fanatics of what you got to do in order to, hey, we've got a bunch of kids here and the local Holiday Inn won't let them stay there. Well, we're going to need to have a couple of families and probably, a lot to be able to house some of the kids and the folks so that they can stay here for this tournament. I mean, you're not a part of that process, but it's happening right before your very eyes.
I really didn't understand. I thought that was just the arrangement they had and stuff. But years later, I found out. As a matter of fact, I ran into one of the families years later at a football game after one of my games.
Wow.
The guy approached me. I can't even think of his name. I'm embarrassed not to know his name. Who told me that I was they were in Bonneville, Utah. Yeah. And I'm the same Anthony Davis that played back then. I said, yeah, I'm the same one there. And then he told me the story about that, what had happened. And I was just flabbergasted, couldn't believe it. But the parents pretty much prepared us for that. They didn't say how blatant I am telling you about that right now. But it was a tough situation. It was a real tough situation to deal with that and to hear that.
Now, did you sleep? Do you remember sleep? Did you sleep like on bunk beds or whatever with a couple of your other teammates, or you're separated from your dad or your mom or your family, right, for a couple of days?
Well, we slept on the floor. I mean, whatever the facilities were, that's what we had to deal with.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, if it was in a bedroom with the two beds, we slept in the beds. I think, frankly, some of the families went out and got beds and
or cots, and sleeping bag. Yeah.
Sleeping bag for us to stay and stuff like that. But we were kids. We didn't care. We could do a whole lot. I mean, we enjoyed it. I mean, see, when you're a kid, they don't care about that kind of stuff, unless it's just straight out blatant, racism or whatever. But we just rolled with the punches, focused on baseball, and I believe it would have been older kids. It affected us, but it didn't affect us. I mean, we were some talented kids that went across the country playing baseball, and we enjoyed it.
There's a certain part, that captures my curiosity when you mention, the Dodger Stadium groomed stadium across the street, and you're probably playing with broken glass and weeds and red ants. You don't want to stretch on the ground, or else you might get a couple of stings or something. There's a certain toughness that's created from some of that. Do you think that in your early portion of your career, you learned how to be a little bit tougher and to deal with things. Hey, it doesn't matter. I'm going to run fast. I'm going to hit the ball hard. I'm going to avoid getting tackled. I'm going to do everything I can because I don't want to have to go through anything like that again. Tell me what that was like for you.
Well, let's talk about the conditions of the field.
Okay.
As kids, we would always teach it and have a running joke because they had gopher holes, you had ants, and our biggest thing is, well, we have 3 outfielders, but sometimes we have 6 outfielders because the gophers are watching the game too. so we had to deal with that, and then we look across the street, and it's just a serene baseball park, and a lot of the cheers and stuff. But we played through. I think playing in those conditions made us better ball players, But it was matter of fact, as me being an adult now, it's more shocking to me now than it was when I was a little kid because we didn't care about that kind. We just wanted to play.
Well, it's all we knew, right? We just knew if I were playing on the field across the street, then I would know what that's like. But right now, I'm not. So
yeah, well, it was a tough situation.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think it would be a major challenge. Well, let's grow up a little bit and go into high school. You mentioned Malcolm Moore. I got a picture here, a couple of your other teammates here. You're over on the right now. You're bent over like you're 55 years old, but you're holding that ball hard, Anthony. That ball's not coming out.
Yep, that was my quarterback year. It was the other guys: Bobby Keith, Drake Conti, Larry Porter. I can't remember. It's Mike Martinez. I don't remember this because it's a Japanese kid here, but I don't remember his name. I've got his name. You probably can see it better than I can. But that was my core team. We were a strong team then. We went all the way to the city finals. Got beat by Granada Hills. That was my city player of the year. And those are some great days back then.
Well, I'm imagining, Davis, get in. A guy breaks his leg, and next thing you're in the game. And I asked a moment ago, but your preparation changed, your focus. I'm imagining, hey, I'm going to carry the ball as long as I don't fumble. I'm going to keep carrying it. Your ability to break through the tackle. What were some of the things that you started to learn that would eventually help you from the recruiting process, as well as the next steps of your life there at USC?
First of all, my high school coach name was Howard Marcus. What he did, he saw my ability in terms of running and throwing. So he developed a system around that ability. I was in a shotgun formation pretty much up under the center, but I would do half rolls. I'd do sprint out. I was a dual threat. And he developed that whole system around my running ability. And then when he realized that I was pretty accurate in throwing the football, he started doing that as well. Because people don't know I was a left-handed quarterback. And I was recruited as a runner because of my running ability. But he built that system around my athletic ability.
Sure. And let's give coaches credit for doing that. If you couldn't throw and you were a runner only, he's got to fix an offensive strategy around that. Or if you were a great thrower, a pure passer, so to speak, but you couldn't run very well, for him to be able to recognize what your talent is and be able to include that in the offensive game plan, congratulations, Coach. Well done.
Well, Howard Marcus, I've always said Howard Marcus could have been a great college coach. He could have been a great NFL coach. I mean, he was innovative, he was smart, and he would exploit anything to our advantage, and he did that.
How do you help
Harper, can I tell you something?
Absolutely, Bob, please.
Yeah, I want to let you know that in my office where I am right now, the great Charles White, who won the Heisman Trophy at SC and also was a San Fernando High alumnus, he sat right here in this office and said, Bob, I idolized Anthony Davis. God bless his soul, too. I loved Charlie. He just couldn't beat his addictions and devils, but what a sweetheart of a guy. But he sat here. Every time he'd see me, he'd say, God bless you, God bless you. He sat here and he could rattle off, he knew plays with all the crap he'd been through. He remembered plays that AD made in high school. In championship games, he was telling me the plays and how he made reverse runs and all that. Charlie White sat here, and I remember AD telling me when he signed with the Southern California Sun, they gave him a brand new Rolls Royce, and he would pick Charlie up in the Rolls Royce, and Charlie would sit in the back seat, shy and quiet and in awe of AD driving around in his Rolls Royce. I mean, just a little insight of his story. And the other thing I want to tell you, in the history of the LA City schools, there's only one player in history that's been City Player of the Year in baseball and football the same year. That's 1970, and it was AD.
That guy right over there. Yeah. Bob, did Charlie, and Anthony, I'm not excluding you. I'm just Bob made a very interesting point. Did Charlie go when he was 7, 8, 9, 10 years old? Did he go to the games? I know he went to high school there.
100%. Charlie's older brother was better than Charlie, and he was AD's teammate, but he tore up his knee. He was a big guy too, right, AD? Big guy.
He was 6'1", 195 in high school. He got recruited to Nebraska. I remember we were both supposed to take a trip back to Nebraska, but it never happened. But he was that talented, and he was our tailback on that team. And then he got hurt, and that's what happened. If we'd have had him my senior year, we'd have destroyed everybody. We'd have destroyed everyone. Even though we got to the city, but we'd have had him. We'd have destroyed every team in the city, LA City schools. Talk
about your early years when you were there. Were there games that you went to before you were in high school? In the school and the players, especially the amount of recruiting, and SC or UCLA or Fresno or San Diego State, all on campus all the time, because there's great talent there, wasn't there, Anthony?
Where's that? San Fernando?
Yes.
Oh, listen, it's so much. It was so many talent in different areas out of San Fernando High School. It's unbelievable. Like,
yeah,
we had George Lopez come out of there. We had Danny Trejo that comes out of there. Manfred Moore went on to the Raiders. I've come out of there. That kids named Fontenot that was all drafted. We had a guy by the name of Gary Matthews, who's the number 1 pick to the Giants.
No kidding. Yeah. Yep.
And then,
Bobby
played against great players out of high school in the American Legion, like George Brett and El Segundo and Pete Lecoq and Robin Yacht. So that's the kind of talent we had coming out of high school. In that area, in San Fernando in particular, we were the ones that everybody was gunning for because we all had that talent.
Yeah, Bob, you had a couple names of your own that you want to include, right?
Oh, no, there was Bobby Chacon, the fighter, came from there. I mean, there were so many great athletes that AD's missed some of them. A lot of guys, I think, a lot of SC guys came from there. Linemen.
Let me name you some that went from SC. It was Malcolm Moore.
Yep.
Manfred Moore. Kevin Williams. Charles White. Kenny Moore. Alan Graff.
Yep.
All those guys come out of that one high school. Went to USC.
Well, you just had to mention Bug, and you got me with Kevin Williams. Man, that guy, phenomenal. Just everything about him. So you got me hooked. But you're also playing against you mentioned George Brett and Pete Lecoq and some of these other great players. A few years later, some kid named John Elway is out of Granada Hills.
Right.
Kennedy had great schools. Sylmar had some. You go over the mountain in the heart. Into the LA Wilson. I mean, some really good players all over and eventually some of them are going to be your teammates at SC, and a few of them you're going to play against them at UCLA. I mean, just a bunch of guys that are good at what they do, and your experience with them all throughout, from an athletic perspective, you got to be kind of not necessarily close, but you got familiar with them.
Well, I was familiar with everything because I watched their careers and how they develop. I mean, I helped recruit Charlie and Kevin and Kenny to USC. That was one of my goals. I wanted them to go to USC and follow me, and that happened. But the thing that got me, and whenever I think of Charlie in particular, I remember when he was 6 years old. That's where I first met him. And they were walking home with his grandmother because his grandmother raised his family. raised him. And I asked my mother, I said, Mom, for some reason I felt bad for him. I said, why don't you just pick them up and give them a ride home? She's pulled them over, and they all got in the back seat. And I remember Charlie, who was sitting in the corner by himself. He was a real shy kid. And that was my first introduction to Charles White. But I didn't realize he was the same kid that went on and grew up and started playing at San Bernardino High School. I didn't know that until he told me the story.
Wow,
And
that's
it
amazing.
jogged my memory. And I asked my mother about it. She says, yeah, we picked him up one day, him and his mother, and took him home. And then he grows up, flirts to be, all-American high school football player, track star, then goes into USC, then wins the Heisman Trophy. So, I mean, I was proud of that, So I was part of the legacy of all those kids coming out of San Bernardino High School. I'm proud of that.
Yeah, I would be too. I mean, just getting to know some of these people and helping them out in the right way. Anthony, talk a little bit about your recruiting process. When did you first know that you, one, had the talent to do it, and two, be able to go to one of the top or upper tier schools in the country where USC was involved with that decision?
Well, first of all, they knew that I could play baseball. They knew I was drafted top by Baltimore. They knew that I had the ability to play at USC, but they weren't really sure about me being a true running back. They knew that I could play because primarily maybe my size. And in the politics of the time, the guy they perceived was better was a guy by the name of Alan Carter, became my roommate. But when I got there and being recruited to USC, the agreement was I was going to play baseball and I was going to play football. But the emphasis, what I thought when I got there getting recruited, that I wasn't focused on baseball. I wanted to go right into get drafted. I wanted to go straight to the Baltimore Orioles. But, my family and stuff, the key thing they were talking about an education for me instead of so much as going in it. Because if I got hurt, then what do I do? But,
yeah.
But when I got recruited, everyone recruited me as a football player. Nebraska, which my mother to this day, she's in heaven now, but she said that the favorite person when I got recruited in college was Tom Osborne from Nebraska. Well, she knew I wasn't going back to Cole, Nebraska, and they didn't have the baseball program or the football program at the time that SC had. And
so you took a trip to Nebraska then, or at least Tom came out and visited with your mom and Miss Davis. I think this is a fantastic spaghetti dinner. I love it, and I'd also like to see your son Anthony wearing the red and white there in Lincoln.
Yeah, when Tom came out, they arranged me to fly back there. I got recruited. When I got back there in Nebraska, I met Johnny Rogers.
Oh my gosh! Yeah,
72 Heisman Trophy winner.
Yep.
And then Willie Harper. The defensive Jeff Kinney, met all those guys back there, and they thought that I could be fit into that mold, but they definitely thought that I was going to be the running back there. It was different from USC, but I was going to be able to play baseball and football. But they thought I eventually would be the starter at Nebraska. But I wasn't going to back to Nebraska with all that cold weather. I wasn't ready for it. I was a Southern California boy. I wasn't going back there.
That says it all right there. Well, from the business perspective, was there any? If you wanted to play baseball first, and a lot of baseball scholarships are only partial, or a half scholarship. Did you have that worked out? I mean, did you have to make a deal? Like, listen, if I'm going to do this is going to be a full scholarship for me to play baseball and to do football. That's not always easily arranged.
Well, the agreement was that I was going to play both sports, but the emphasis was going to be, for me, was going to be on baseball.
Yeah.
I knew that I had already accomplished. I already became a professional. I was drafted. I was a top player being drafted nationally. So I already knew that from a professional standpoint that I could go right into baseball. So how far I went, I don't know. Football, right. I was still on the proving ground, even though I was City Player of the Year, high school All-American in both sports. But the emphasis for me and for the school was I was going to be part of the team, but I was not going to be the main guy to take over at tailback. The plan was Rod McNeil, Alan Carter, and eventually Alan Carter would replace Rod McNeil as a starting quarterback, starting running back.
Yeah.
And if anything happened, I would have been there because I asked McKay what was his plan for me. He said, well, we think you'll be a great special teamer and you'll be a good backup running back to the two in front of you. So basically, they've already made the decision that I'm going to be the backup, or one of the backups.
Sure.
And it didn't bother me because I was always focused on baseball.
Well,
I was just coming off the national champion with baseball anyway.
Yeah. And you're 5'10", you're 55, 65 pounds, dripping wet.
SC?
Yeah. No, in high school. In high school, during the recruiting process, you're still just a smaller guy, right?
No, man. I picked up. Let me see. My junior year, man, I picked up 40 pounds. I went
really? Okay.
I went from that to 175, 80 pounds.
Gotcha.
My senior year. When I got to SC, I was 185.
Okay.
As a freshman. 5'10", 185 pounds.
And you go from football your senior year, Happy New Year. You start spring practice for baseball. The decision to make the college choice is what? The first Wednesday in February. That's when you're starting to play games. You finish your baseball season, and then by the time you enroll in school, you got to be there, 3 weeks early for two-a-days. You've got a pretty busy schedule going right there.
Absolutely. But when I first did the double days of spring football, I only did one spring football, just one.
Okay.
They knew they didn't want to jeopardize a risk of me getting hurt, even though it was a risk anyway because I'm playing football. And they wanted me to be ready for football. But once I established myself after my sophomore year, I didn't have to play football in the spring. It was just all baseball straight. So when the football season was over, I started getting ready for baseball.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they knew because they knew I had a serious situation where this guy can become a professional in baseball.
Yeah.
And Rod Data was Rod Data was excited to have me, and I was glad he was thinking that way. And he always told me, he says, Tiger, you're going to play in the major league. So that was and see, you got to remember, a lot of people didn't expect me to become what I did. I was a fluke. I was just a fluke that happened overnight, and that's what happened. The football thing was just a surprise.
I appreciate you saying that. I smiled because how long did it take for Rod to call you Tiger? I need to know that. Was that the very first conversation?
He was calling me Tiger from the freshman to the last time I saw him at the LA Ambassador Hotel or whatever.
Yeah, everybody's Tiger there. But before Dion, before Bo, I got to play with Brian Jordan. Before Brian Jordan, you were really one of those phenomenal guys. And I would say, Anthony, very unique. I don't know how coaches knew how to handle it because they didn't have to deal with it. There weren't any guy at the collegiate level for you to be able to play both sports, eventually winning 5 national championships between the two of them. Are you kidding me? How would you handle Anthony Davis if you were John McKay or Rod Data?
Well, first of all, I take pride in myself and having good work ethic and period. And
Sure.
Coach McKay knew that I would work hard in both sports. And so, and the main thing is he just knew that I was disciplined. He knew I was focused on what I had to do. And he knew that I knew that the team depended on me. So I knew that going in, period.
Well, you go to USC, and because of the rules back then in 71, right, your freshman year, you can't play. Was there anything in particular that I'm here at practice and I know I should be carrying the ball, but I can't. The rule didn't change until your sophomore year in 72. Talk a little bit about that.
Well, that was unbelievable. Here I am, a freshman, knowing you can participate and contribute to a varsity team. It was like that across the country. I mean, we used to talk about if we'd have had our freshman class incorporated with that 72 team,
oh man,
we'd have won the national title back then. And so that team that was integrated with the 72 team is why we won the national title. Everyone knew that if those players off that freshman team could have been involved, there's no telling what would have done. That's the kind of talent we had coming in there.
Going to practice for the first couple of days, do you look around and go, man, that dude's huge? That dude.
The first guy that got my attention was Richard Wood.
Yeah.
And then the thing that got the way how he got his name is we were all freshmen, and we had to stand up and introduce ourselves, and that was a huge class anyway. So they said, well, Richard Wood stood up and says, "I'm Richard Batman Wood from New." I'm Richard Batman Wood, and that's how it stuck. That's how he got his name, Batman.
Yeah.
but Richard Wood had the speed, roamed from sideline to sideline, and could knock your head off. And he's the first USC 3-time All-American.
Yep.
It's never happened. He's the only one that holds that. He's the first one.
Yep. He's
then the other guy that Dale Mitchell's another guy, big, strong, extremely white boy, but he was strong, and he could hit. He'll hit you in the next week.
Yeah. Well, every one of that class, and what you have, probably about 20, 22, maybe different guys that were freshmen that were brought in, and this guy's an All-American, or this guy is an All-State guy, or this guy was All-Region. You were, 2-time All San Fernando Valley All-American. I mean, just everywhere you look, there's talent, really good guys that can play. What was the motivator for you guys? What kept your clock going to where I'm going to give you everything I've got, coach? I'm going to give everything I have, school, teammates, university. What was that like for you?
Well, we knew that the talent was there, and we knew that it was contagious. They knew we all had to work hard, from the senior class, Mike Ray to Pat Hayden, all the way down to Richard Wood, myself. We knew that we had the talent, and the focal point was to motivate our teammates and keep us on that level to maintain the winning ways. And it's obvious. You see what it is. You see with that, we have 2 national championships, and I believe if things would have went right another way, we'd have had 3 straight. But it didn't happen that way because we stumbled and stuff. But we had enough talent to win. Because you got to remember, we dominated college football in the 70s in terms of players and stuff like that. It was unbelievable. I mean, matter of fact, we were one of the most feared teams in college football at the time.
Hey, Harper, that 1972 Trojan team, I believe, AD can tell you, I don't think they were behind the whole season. A lot of people call it the greatest college team in history.
Well, you beat me to it, Bob. I got a picture of it, Anthony. I'm not asking you to remember any specifics about it, but you got a great coaching staff, right? You got guys that really knew what they were doing, and they could give you the individual things that you would need. And then just as a group, talent, speed, strength, smarts, agility. Talk a little bit about the 72 team.
Unbelievable. Let's start off with Sam Cunningham first. I mean, he could have played tailback. He was like 6'3", 6'2", 225. He was a fullback. And then, we had Dussel Garrison, the wideout, who was the fastest guy on the team. And then we had Richard Wood, of course. Then we had guys like Mike Hancock. We had guys like Alan Graff, Pete Adams. Those guys were the anchor of the team. And we had on defense, we had Charles Anthony, Jimmy Sims, Ray Rodriguez. Those guys were beasts. And as a matter of fact, it was a fear. I mean, like when teams saw us, and I mean, I'm really reluctant to talk about that, but they had fears in their eyes. I remember one game we were playing Washington, and the guy that became my teammate at Tampa Bay by the name of Dave Pear, he was in the Coliseum. He says, he was like the fourth quarter. He says, "Man, can't you guys give us a break?" I said, "No, you're gonna get your ass kicked. That's what you came down here for. You're not gonna leave this Coliseum without getting your ass kicked."
Well, there's a certain hunger that, we're number one in the pack, or even ranked number one, but we still need to beat some people in order to do this. To have that goal set before you when the season starts, you train differently, don't you? I mean, you prepare differently. There are some schools, like I went to Colorado State. We never talked about that. We didn't even talk about it. There's no way we're going to be national champions. You had that from the time you got to that campus, and other people were discussing it. The coaches were. There's a different mindset, isn't there, in terms of preparing for this at the highest level?
Well, first of all, in 1971, that was 77. We had a problem because they were 6-4-1, In the 71 year, that's when we was talking about we'd had that 71 team incorporated with the freshman club. No telling what would have done.
Right.
And so we were coming off those years. My freshman year, they didn't win. We had Washington came down and beat us. Sonny Six. Remember Sonny Sixkiller? Remember him, Bob?
Oh yeah.
Sonny Sixkiller came down and won. And then we had a situation where they just struggled, and we realized that if we were on that team, there's no telling what would have done as freshmen. But like you say, freshmen couldn't play.
Well, I've got some pictures of you in the 72 team.
Well, I see it up here. I see it was Sam leading the block, and that was against Notre Dame. And I remember this picture. This is the 6 touchdown game right here.
Yes.
Yeah.
I found a couple of those. You mentioned something about Sam lead blocking. How would you like to be an outside linebacker or a safety and see one of the, you got Bill Bain coming out, and he takes out your defensive end, and then you got Sam Cunningham lead blocking for you? Are you kidding me?
Well,
I mean, there's an imposing factor there with your size, and again, the speed and the way you guys practiced,
right.
The tempo that you had. That I'm not going to say it was ever easy for you, Anthony, but there were some times where I imagine it was harder in practice than it was in some games.
Well, it was that way. Let me tell you something about the Trojan team. I remember times when Sam Cunningham was leading blocks and he was hitting guys. And I remember he hit this guy from Stanford. He says, guess what? You got 3 more quarters of this.
Hey Harper, I'm going to give you a Sam Cunningham story. Okay.
Please go ahead, Bob.
AD would never tell you this. In the 1973 Rose Bowl game, SC won the national championship, and the MVP of the Rose Bowl game was Sam Bam Cunningham. Now, why was he the MVP? Because he scored 4 touchdowns. Okay. Now, if you look and check the game out, there's a guy named Anthony Sweet Tooth Davis that ran for 167 yards and a touchdown. Okay, now listen. Sam Cunningham, the MVP of the game, scored 4 touchdowns on jumps from the 1 or 2 yard line after AD ran the ball all the way down. So AD took the ball all the way down, did all the grunt work, and then McKay put Cunningham in to jump over the thing for a touchdown. But the truth is, and I was there, you're talking to the MVP of the game, in my opinion. And even Sam admitted that to me later on. God bless his soul.
So what you're really saying, Bob, is if Anthony were a little bit stronger and a little bit faster, then he would have gotten 5 touchdowns in that game? Is that what you're telling me?
100%.
Well, the 72 season, this is one of the pictures, Anthony, that I found to be interesting. The following day, you're getting to read the headline. Whoever took that picture, thank them if they're still with us, because Davis has to be one of the great headlines of all time. You're a part of it. I get it. But even if you weren't a part of it, the way that they put that together and the significance of that game, of obviously in 1972, this is the beginning of you being the Notre Dame killer. Talk a little bit about the game itself and your recollection of it.
Well, that was a very controversial year for me. Just my whole career was controversial, but it was exciting but controversial. The week of the Notre Dame game, I'm being interviewed by Jim Murray. Jim Murray said, do you realize who you're playing this week? Notre Dame. I said, yeah, well, I understand the significance of the rivalry. I don't really understand it because I was young, didn't realize what it meant to be a game with Notre Dame versus USC. Didn't get that. All I knew, they were good, they were big, and they were strong. And we had beaten UCLA the week before. And I told Jim Murray, I said, I think I can get 2 long runs against Notre Dame in this game. Why did I say that? Because my teammates didn't like that. He said, you cocky SOB. You got to realize that we're playing. Why are you giving them bulletin board material? I said, I didn't think the man was going to write it like that, but I just believe that much, and I think that we can, that I could do that and we can win. He said, you realize we're playing Notre Dame? I said, well, yeah, I understand that, but we can win. And I mean, everybody was pissed off at me at that week, just running my mouth, being brash. So, the game day, I'm in the locker room, and I remember there's a guy by the name of Sugar Bear Hinton was on the kickoff return team. And those days they introduced us on national TV. ABC was covering the game, so they introduced me and the rest of the team, and we won the toss. And I'm saying to myself, I got to get 2 long runs. If not, I'm gonna get crucified, and especially if we get beat. I'm thinking this way, and so we won the kickoff, we won the toss, and Charles Sugar Bear Hinton came and said, "Look, Anthony, just follow me. Let's try to get good field position. If not, you try to bring this thing all the way back." That's our conversation. First play of the game, end over kick. I'm at the 3-yard line. I run 97 yards for the touchdown, opening kickoff. I'm saying to myself, I got one and one more to go and then win the game. So it was a seesaw battle back and forth. It got down to 25-23, third quarter. They kick off to me again on the 4-yard line. I go 96 yards the other way. So I'm saying to myself, that's 2 down. Now we have to win the game. So as we know, I end up scoring 4 more times, 6 times. We beat Notre Dame, getting ready for the Rose Bowl. We'd already won the Pac-8 title, and our rankings went up. So the next game was going to be Ohio State. But after that game, the 6 touchdowns, I didn't realize there was one guy who read that article. This guy's name was Muhammad Ali. And a guy by the name of Booker Griffin, KGLA Radio, got a hold of me and said, you know something? Muhammad Ali saw that game, and he read that article that Jim Murray said. And he said he liked the fact that the way I predicted 2 long runs, the way he used to predict the rounds you were going to knock him out in. And so in other words, once I scored 6, I mean, people were looking at me like, what the hell did you know to make you score 6 touchdowns? I said, hey, I was just playing. I had a lot of pressure on me, internal pressure. And I knew if I didn't win this game, well, I was going to catch hell. But it came out that way. And then a couple of months later, 3 months later, they arranged it. I saw Muhammad Ali, that he was coming in from, that's the years when he got his title back, got his belt back, and he was able to got his license back to be able to fight.
Yeah, he could fight again. Yeah.
Huh?
He could fight again. Yeah, he wasn't allowed to fight for 3 years. Yeah.
Couldn't fight. And then I remember I was at the airport with Booker, and he was this promotional guy for KGLH, the radio station eventually Stevie Wonder ended up owning. And I'm just sitting there, and everybody's wondering, well, why is Anthony Davis here? I mean, I'm sure they figured that I was a fan of Ali's. But, and it was a shot that I was going to be able to meet him anyway. It was a shot. And so Booker saw it was a commotion of people coming off, and he grabbed Ali, and he said that he told Ali it was Anthony Davis. He stopped, looked at me, walked to me, and I don't want to. He used that N word a lot. He says, "So you're the N that scored 6 touchdowns against Notre Dame."
Okay.
So
how do you shake hands with a guy that just does that with you? Oh my gosh, how about that?
And so I said to him, I said, well, yeah, I'm the one who did that. And then he poses a little bit like in the boxing sense. Said, but can you do this? Then I said to my football sense, carrying the football, can you do this? And that's how I knocked it. And I didn't see him after that. I mean, but the problem is in the scenario of the Notre Dame SC game, the 6 touchdowns, what had happened was that created a problem because in those years, and Bob can tell you who's being with his background in boxing, can tell you that if you were a young black kid in those years, you couldn't even talk about him. But I went out to meet him, and when I got back, I caught hell for doing that. Even though we beat Notre Dame, I scored 6 touchdowns. There's no way that's going to happen. You don't do that.
John Carlos also.
John Carlos, 68 Olympics. I was just enamored about how, first of all, in those years, I would say, man, how can a black dude do that? How can you be in black doing that when you were going against the system? You know, when you got Tommy Smith and John Carlos, who took black gloves and saluted the country and wanted to tell the country that something was wrong with the United States. Well, I ended up meeting him before I met Ali. So therefore, I was sort of a anti-system guy perceived by the people. There's no way that, you know, you're going to be hanging out with guys like that. I was so intrigued at the fact that he had the nerve and gall to do what he did during those days and those times. And people don't remember that Ali was, everybody was against Ali. And that's why it makes him so legendary now, because of what he stood for. But back in the day when I did that, you couldn't do that. Matter of fact, a lot of the black guys on the team, so that apprehensive being around me because of what I thought and what I would do. Because kids, you got to think, kids didn't do that in those years. I mean, they would go patronize, but to go seek him out and just to meet him, and I was able to do that. And I was with him, you know, 3 or 4 more times before he died. And the last time I was with him, it was at a place called Espargo's in Beverly Hills restaurant, and I was in the restaurant along with Sidney Poitier, and we took pictures together. And then when he had the Parkinson's problem and the brain issues, when he saw me, his wife pulled me and said, "I would like to take a picture with you and Ali and Sidney Poitier." And what had happened was, when I walked toward where he was sitting, the first thing he said, and he was shaking and stuff like that, because that's the symptoms of Parkinson.
Yep.
And when I saw him, he goes, "So you're the end that scored 6 touchdowns against Notre Dame." He repeated it.
And the elephant never forgets, Anthony. Goodness gracious. So
Hey, Harper, I knew Ali for years. I was at his 39th birthday party at his house in Hancock Park, and he loved AD because we talked about it. But one of the funniest guys, and he could use the N-word and you'd laugh. You understand what I'm saying? Like he told a reporter one time, he said, "Every time I look at Howard Cosell, I'm glad all the ends look the same." In other words, he had some of the greatest lines. You know what he told? He was in the Thrilla in Manila in the Philippines, and he told the president of the Philippines, "Every time I look at your wife, I realize you're not as dumb as you look." In other words, the president of the Philippines. I mean, he was hilarious. He was one of the funniest guys.
Yeah.
And he was seriously a beautiful human being.
Yeah.
At the end of his life, he had a wife, Lonnie. I say he's as Christ-like as any human being I've ever met the last 30 years of his life. He helped people. He was not prejudiced. He loved all people. He didn't care what nationality, what religion. He loved everybody. He was pure, like a pure person. And AD knows that. He was a great person. And I miss him every day. You know, he's been in my house here. You know what he told my wife? I'm going to tell you this one thing. He comes in and he goes, "Leave him," because she hadn't met him before. "Leave him." And then he says to her, "What color is angel food cake?" And she said, "White." "What color is devil's food cake?" "Black." "What do you wear at a funeral?" "Black." "What do you wear at a wedding?" "White." "What color horse does a good guy ride?" "White." "What color horse does the bad guy ride?" "Black." "When it's a beautiful day out, it's dark. When it's ugly. When it's a beautiful day out, it's light." He went through a whole plethora of stuff. As a white man, I never heard.
Right.
And he was just hilarious. He was entertaining. He would love to. That's enough, Ollie. We're doing AD, but he loved AD. I just wanted to tell you that.
Well, I'm glad you get to participate because of your boxing knowledge. The greatness of the man, as you mentioned, the greatness of the fighter, which you mentioned, but also the controversy. And Anthony, that was a controversial time for you because people that didn't know any better were going, "Well, hey, maybe you're going to be controversial now that you're hanging out with a guy that he's not even allowed to box for the 3 prime years of his life because of some of the things that are going on and his being outspoken about it. Did that come? I'm not going to say it come back to haunt you, but how did you learn to deal with it? Look, I just don't want to run the ball. Okay, I said something. It got put in the paper. We still won anyways, but you guys need to kind of back off a little bit. I know what I'm doing.
First of all, what historians don't talk about and what they say, they don't talk about what happened with me over the years at USC, back in the college days, in which it followed me into the pros. In those years, you could not do that. I mean, what I was dealing with, socially I was inept, politically I was inept, and when meeting those people, I was inept. I was out of line. And see, a lot of people believe when it comes to how I met these 2 individuals, historically they're stoic in history. But what people don't understand is that historically, some people have approached me over the years and said, you know why you didn't win the Heisman? Many reasons why you didn't win the Heisman. Number one, they bring out Ali, they brought up Carlos, then also I was dating outside of my race. So a lot of people say on top, they voted too early for the Heisman and all this kind of stuff. And a lot of people believe that cost me the Heisman based on my off the field stuff, not on the field, but off the field actions.
Harper, he was driving a Cadillac convertible with 2 blondes on each side of him.
No, hey Bob, you're overdoing it. It was only one.
Only one, Bob.
It was only one. I mean, I didn't do that, but I didn't care those years because I believe, hey, if I liked you, I didn't care what color you were. And see, and a lot of people were handicapped and said, I'm not going to do that because the system says you can't do that. Well, I went against the system. I mean, I just liked this woman and that was it. And she happened to be white. But it was all the other stuff on combined situations where I was doing other things. I mean, I was boisterous. I was open in class. I remember a professor by the name of Professor Don Wilden, who was a big influence on me at the university. And then also all the things that I was doing during that time was anti-system. And I was known for that. Outside of the football stuff, I was known for just telling it the way it is, flamboyant. I played flamboyant.
Yep.
The whole deal. So that's the way
How about the dance? He was the first guy to do that dance after a touchdown.
Well, the 72 year, what happened? We were at a practice. It was the week of the UCLA game. So there was Lynn Swan, there was Wayne Fonts, who was the defensive back coach, and they said, you have to do something after you score. You got to do something. I said, well, you? And so all of a sudden, I just jumped on my knees and started. And he said, yeah, do that. That's great. And then we passed on. We passed it off like it's nothing going to really happen. But against UCLA in 1972, we beat them 24-7. I scored on a play up the middle. I'll never forget the play. It was called G, 22 Sisters. 22 Sisters. That was the name of the play.
Okay.
I scored on that. I dropped to my knees and I was doing a knee dance, and that's where it started. That's how it all started. But I was all part of my personality while I was doing it. I said I wasn't really doing it for my thing. I was doing it for more of a team thing. But you know how it is in the press. Look at me, and stuff. That's not how I was looking at it. But the public perception was I was being a hot dog and not being focused on the team.
Well, I'm thinking also, in so many respects, you were an original, and I'm going to say a kind of a trendsetter. Please forgive me, Anthony. I finally found one of the pictures. This is in the 74 Notre Dame game on the right.
Right.
I've got JK after he made one of those touchdowns. Yeah, I think he had 2 touchdowns in that game, too. He had a great little post corner route that he scored on. Dion, Brian Bosworth, Michael Irvin, all kind of followed in terms of their ability to brand themselves and maximize the media relationship. Let's be candid. They weren't around. You were first. You were one of the first. Bob mentioned the Cadillac with the pretty girl in the car. what other co-ed wouldn't want to have that type of life, right? Even if you're just going to a movie and have a meal at El Cholo's or someplace where you're going to go and have a nice time.
You couldn't
The
do
Nike relationship, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. Muhammad Ali and John Carlos, there are things that you did that other folks, and they'd never done it before. You kind of opened the door in many respects in terms of your originality in being outspoken. And yeah, there was some, it probably didn't make Coach McKay too happy. He wasn't that kind of a guy, but just explain how I'm just being me, and I did a great job. And next thing you know, people want to introduce me to other folks. That's part of being in LA, isn't it?
Well, put it this way. When I got to USC and when I started getting my so-called USC fame and exposure, everybody used to always say I should emulate my image after O.J. Simpson in my gear. Right away, I took offense to that because I'm my own individual.
Yeah, right.
You know, and so they wanted me to emulate my image, and I said, no, I'm Anthony. That's it. Period. I'm not gonna chow down to what you want me to be.
I'm not these other guys. Don't ask me to be, right?
Well, that's what they used to do.
Yeah.
You see, I didn't want to fall into the stereotypes, okay? I wasn't a stereotype type of guy. This is the image you should portray. Stay in your lane. And I didn't do that. I said, as long as I'm playing football, as long as I'm going to school and we're winning championships, which we were, which has never been done like that since, that's all that should matter. That wasn't good enough.
Yeah. Well, this next photo, you started after the 72 game, started to experience a little bit of that SC success, if you don't mind me saying so. And then 3 separate covers for one guy at Sports Illustrated. I know you were in the portion of another one later on, but, this has got to be an amazing run for you in terms of the team success, absolutely. But the individual part of that, your offensive line blocking for you, running for 255 yards in a game, and then doing it again the next week, punt returns, kick returns, all part of that. And next thing you know, on a national level, USC is being talked about sometimes each and every week. Not like what they do on game day where you talk for 7 or 8 hours. With the Trojans, you're helping build that program back up again.
Well, first of all, the thing is with SC, I want to see USC get back to those years if they can. And I just wanted to say this, and we set the standard. And what I want to say to all football fans and USC fans in particular is this. I was very fortunate to play in the greatest time in school's history. I played in the greatest decade in NC2A history. You got to remember, I was on 3 of the 5 straight national titles in baseball. I was on 2 national championships in football. In the decade of the 70s, all the national championship across all the sports. There's no other university in the United States history who's had that run. We set the standard. We have the most Heisman Trophy winners, and I think we have the most national champions. I could be wrong. I'd be corrected on that. So I was very fortunate to play in an era that set the standard. And I know this might piss off a few people, but when it comes to that 72 team, pound for pound, greatest team in school history. Nobody can touch that team. We were 3 deep in every position. There's no one that compares to that team. I mean, I have guys who was on that team that it could have been starters anywhere else.
Yeah. I
can name you a few. So in retrospect, people don't really know how great those teams were.
Harper, another thing, which
go ahead,
I'm sure you're going to bring up, is how they changed the voting for the Heisman because of this guy. They changed the voting. In other words, if they had voted after the Notre Dame game, he would have ran away. Archie Griffin won the Heisman, and he was second in the Heisman race, and he would have blown him out of the water. And that's why they now vote after all the games are complete.
Well, I'd like to talk about that Notre Dame game, of course, and then the after effect of that, as Bob said, with the Heisman and all that. I know there are folks in Alabama that are going to Bear Bryant and Nick Saban. There are folks at UCLA that'll say John Wooden. I'm not disagreeing with you, Anthony. I'm just saying, in your opinion, the national championships and the amount of them that you were a part of there in that little window of time, absolutely amazing, and that needs to be respected. And I want to make sure we do that. I also go ahead, Anthony, please.
We'll put it this way: I'm not questioning Bear Bryant, not questioning Saban's. I mean, in terms of football run, he's the best.
Yeah.
But I'm talking about the overall athletic programs nationally, historically.
Sure.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
I'm not questioning all the Nick Saban thing. I don't know if anybody will do that again.
Right.
But those are separate issues, and I'm not comparing anything like that. I'm just saying, when you're going to want to go pound for pound, that one team, I'll put it up against anyone.
Yeah, and I completely agree with you, and I'm not saying anything against Nick Saban either. But John McKay won 4 in 16 years. They were ranked number 1 in the country in '75 after you left, when he decided to go to Tampa, and they lost 4 games in a row. He devastated the team with the news of him leaving, and that could have been another one. And then if '73 had a playoff like they do now, where we got to take care of. We got to beat Clemson first, then we got to go play somebody that it's a completely different era. So everybody has their opinion, and because you were a part of it, I value yours especially. And I'm sure there are folks in Bama that would argue that. And that's one of the great things about college football that's so much fun to be a part of. And one thing that we can't dispute is your success against the University of Notre Dame. Give me 2 seconds I got some pictures I want to load up for you for this one, but. Was there anything special about that game going into the week? You'd beaten UCLA. They're the number 3 team in the nation. They come from South Bend. You get them at home. What was the, if you can remember, any of the impact of getting ready for that week from a preparation standpoint? Does anything stick out for you?
You talking about '74?
Yes, the '74 game.
What sticks out to me on different fronts. We talk about Nike involvement, talking about Notre Dame SC dominating those 3 years when we won the national title in '72. They won in '73, and we won in '74. But what comes to mind is the fact that I think about, here I am playing in the greatest rivalry of all time, the most historical thing of all time, and the fact is that I'm known to be the dominant player in the rivalry of all time. That's an honor to me. I mean, just the fact that you can mention me and say that this is the man had the best performances of anybody in the rivalry, and had probably the best performances of anybody in anybody's rivalry. To me, I'm very blessed to be able to be said that. And for me to score 11 touchdowns in 3 games and almost 700 something yards in total offense, you can check the numbers.
Yeah.
The fact that for me to do that,
hands
no
down,
one else has ever done that.
Nope.
That's what I think about. That's what I was thinking about. And so it was a grand finale. That was the last game in '74 that I was going to play against, and to accomplish what we did, go on and win the national championship. I mean, what more can you say?
Hey, do me a favor, Anthony. Go back to the '73 at Notre Dame South Bend game. Was there any bitterness or anything that you or your teammates said, man, we were never going to let that happen? We had the chance, we lose there, and now we're going to beat the brakes off these guys when we get them again. Is that a possible, scenario from the locker room perspective?
First of all, that's after I scored 6 touchdowns going back. So that was tough because I had just scored 6. I was going back to the Lions. They had never been back there before. They had me hanging in effigy. They had my pictures all over near the Golden Dome.
Really? They wanted you stuffed and plucked and tarred and feathered?
Oh, they wanted to stuff me and stuff like that. And the thing is, what happened with the teammate that rattled the team because they saw all this emphasis on me. But I think what happened, I mean, Pat Hayden, I think he threw 2 or 3 interceptions. I don't know how sure that happened. But I think when Ross Browner hit him early in the game, I think that rattled him. He was never the same after that.
Okay.
But because I remember he got hit by Ross. I said, God, this man can't even see.
Yeah.
And so.
What was that like going through their tunnel, right? And You see the touchdown Jesus when you get out of the bus, and
Well,
you're packed. Most people don't know how tight that space is in that tunnel, and you guys both come out at the same time, if I'm not mistaken. Or did you guys get held back and have to wait for them to come out first?
well, they sort of got a little bit of a brawl, but they had to wait until they got out of the tunnel. They didn't want that to happen because
Right.
they didn't want anything to break out. But at the beginning of the game, it was a little tense. But other than that, one team would go out first, and the other team would come out afterwards.
Okay. And they didn't have the Trojan horse out. That was the 75 year. They went with the green jerseys, right? You didn't have anything on the field other than maybe the band coming out, right?
No, I had nothing to do with that. They
Okay.
had none of that there.
Yeah.
It wasn't no band, no horse, or anything in those years. Only the horse was at Coliseum.
Yeah, Traveler got to do a little bit of running after you took care of the Irish there. So, all right, now let's lead back up to the 74 game. The game program has a picture of you on the cover of it against the 72 Irish team, and lots of huge expectations. Again, Notre Dame's number 3 in the country. Everybody knew that Era and Coach McCabe weren't really friends. They didn't really like each other. They had kind of a little competitive rivalry going. Did any of that carry on with pregame warmups or anything that you can recall from that specific 74 game?
The only thing that I remember about me, the emphasis was on me, because I had already scored 7 touchdowns against them. And the thing is, they stared at me more than anything. I've never been stared at and focused on a team, focused on by any team like that, collegiate or professional. I mean, these guys wanted to take my neck off. I mean, you can see it in their eyes and stuff. And every time they hit me, they made sure they knew I was getting hit. So, yeah, I remember that.
They give you a little bit of an extra shove or a push after a tackle. Well, once the game starts, obviously, let's be competitive here and just give both sides some credit. Irish dominated the first 25 minutes of that ball game.
Destroyed it. Like I told you earlier, and told you before we started doing this, it was like 2 different games. 24-0 in the first half, 24-6, and you came back and it was 17 football minutes of another game. It was 2 different games. Anybody was there, they knew that. I mean, to the point where people in the first half, all indications from people, they were leaving the stadium because there's no way you can come back 24-6 down on a team that great. No one thought we could do that. Historically,
go ahead. Yeah.
Historically, that's unheard of. It's never been done since, or nothing's done. You haven't seen anything like that since. I don't think anybody's seen that in the last.
Hey, Harper, I want to tell you something. What you told me the other day, I had totally forgot about, and I talked to AD about it, and you were 100% right. Dave Lewis, you know.
Well, before we get there, hold on a second. I want to. That's obviously. So, folks, if you don't know, Bob was at the game. Kind of think Anthony was there, and I'm an 11-year-old kid. My cousin Greg was a student at USC, and somehow or another, my mother was able to get Greg to give his spare student ticket to me, and so I get to meet him. He picks us up. We go park somewhere. We drive through, the museum and through the campus, and we didn't drive through the campus. We walked through it, and I'm sitting in the student section. And I have to admit, the first half, Notre Dame just dominates. I'm going, this is ridiculous. You score a touchdown. That was a lateral, about a 7 or 8 yard TD. You go towards the SC side, and you get in the corner of the end zone. They go for 2, and it fails. So even there, this is going to be fantastic. And, there's a letdown. So you're going into the tunnel at the first half. I have to imagine that, from a competitive standpoint, all right, we got to put things together. But I know as a fan, that was a disappointing first half. Anthony, talk a little bit about, how that ends up. And then I want to ask you specifically about the halftime conversation with Coach.
Here's another thing people don't know about that game. Some people do, most don't. At halftime, I'm looking at it now, you remind me, I cut my palm, and they couldn't get to stop the bleeding and stop. They didn't know if I cut a vein or not.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And so
did you do it on that touchdown, or did it happen before then?
I have no clue. I must have hit it when I was just on the ground, and some sludge. It was some, whatever it was. It was before at the half, and I was wiping my hand all the time. So I go into the halftime. Paul Williams, Jack Ward, the trainer, they wrapped my hand. And I missed the halftime talk between the offense and the defense.
My understanding. Oh, you good? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, we're getting a few things
No,
straightened
no.
out with Anthony.
No.
By the way, go ahead, please.
No. So at halftime, we came back together. And McKay, and we all got back together. McKay was sitting there at the, walking back and forth. And what he said to everyone, he said, "Well, gentlemen, we're not playing so well." Well, we knew that. And then he says, "Well, I'll tell you what." He says, in 1964, Mike Garrett and Mike Garrett and Craig Furtick was down 17-3. If they can come back and win 20-17, we can come back. And when he said that, we all looked at each other. This man's lost his mind. There's no way we're going to come back against this team.
Yeah.
And come. What are you talking about? Are you kidding me? We can be respectful. We're not going to dominate these guys. And so they were concerned about my hand. And so Notre Dame went out first, and we went out first, and then Notre Dame came out the second. And he said they're going to kick the ball to Davis. He's going to bring it all the way back. I said, "Are you kidding me? They weren't kicking to us the whole game." And what he knew, I have no clue, but they did. 102 yards, touchdown.
Yep.
Then that great hit from David Lewis, that the whole stadium stood up. And then we scored 49 points in 17 football minutes. Greatest thing I've ever been a part of.
Yep. Completely turned everything around.
Right.
My friend Jeff Thackleberry's brother was at the game, and he was getting a hot dog, and he missed it. He heard the roar of the crowd, and thank goodness I didn't. But everything, you're right. I had heard it, that Coach McKay pulls everybody together, and then he looks over at you after saying what he just did, and he goes, "AD, you're going to turn this around. You're going to get a touchdown, and then we're going to go from there." Now, you were saying he didn't say that, and that's fine. The folklore, it doesn't matter. The fact that you're all looking around thinking this guy's crazy was another portion of that. I'm glad you mentioned that, Anthony, because who wouldn't have thought that same thing? They just completely dominated us for the first 30 minutes of this game.
Harper, I've never been to a game where 90,000 people or whatever it was never sat down in the second half.
Yeah.
And I've been to over 30-something Rose Bowl games, 9 Super Bowl games, hundreds and hundreds of NFL games, and thousands of college games. Never have I seen a game like that ever in my life. Never. It was like you're on a – it was – AD had me – I'm not going to go into the details, but he had a guy writing a book on – it's called If My Nikes Could Talk, and the guy wanted to interview me. Okay, so we met at Bob's Big Boy. Okay, and the guy asked me off the record what it was like. And I said, all I can say is it was like watching 90,000 people do something in sync, which we won't say on here. But the idiot, I was just saying it with a bunch of guys, and the guy printed it in the book. I couldn't believe it. AD went nuts when he saw it was in the book. Well, I've never seen anything like it. It was almost like going to heaven and back again. I've never seen anything. You were 11 years old. I was not. I was older than you, and I never. The feeling and the vibration. It was Charlie Phillips intercepts a touchdown. I mean, the whole thing was just on fire. I've never seen anything like it ever at any game. And it was for the national championship.
You couldn't have scripted it, and there's no way you could have practiced for it, where it just seems like almost every single thing worked. That hit by David Lewis on the following kickoff. Now, the picture I have of you is of a gentleman on the sideline. This is I don't know how he got that close, because this is probably at about the 40-yard line, if I'm not mistaken. So how he got in between the 40 and the sideline, unless it's a Notre Dame photographer. And I'm teasing because a very young freshman like Clay Matthews wearing number 60 on the left, and I tease him, Clay, you got to get out of the way. Go block somebody. Don't look at Anthony. Go hit somebody. But this obviously changed the game. The following kickoff, David Farmer tackles the Notre Dame returner inside the 10-yard line. And that's, to me, I mentioned that to others, and you mentioned it too, Anthony. That was a turning point in the ball game as well. The crowd was never the same after that. For the following, all of the third quarter, the defense dominated, gets a 3 and out, a short punt, a quick return. Next thing you know, you're in the end zone. And the onslaught was begun. So, well, again, you were there, you know all about it, but I'm just saying that what a turnaround, an amazing game. And I never believed this could happen moment. Well, you've had one.
Well, like I said before, that game is the greatest thing I've ever been a part of, period. Period. No one's ever had anything like that. The history, the touchdowns, the yards, the championships, never. And that's the standard at SC.
Yeah, absolutely amazing. Well, you get off that game, and then you got about 3 weeks to prepare to get ready for Ohio State and the Buckeyes. Bob mentioned this a little bit earlier. The final vote for the Heisman Trophy was tallied before that game took place. From your perspective, just, we give Archie Griffin all the credit, but you know what? They didn't include this game. It's a travesty, Anthony. And I don't know how you keep your sanity knowing that the voting itself took place before everybody had played all of their games. Talk a little bit about what that meant to you.
It was crazy. I mean, I really didn't know how the process worked, but they should have waited all the games. And as the years have gone by, and people credit me for that game and my teammates, we should have won that trophy. But if I change the way they vote, that's a pretty good thing. But if you think about stuff like that, you'll go crazy.
Okay, fair enough. Yes, absolutely. Do you remember what the final tally was? Was it a close race anyways? What did Archie, did he beat you by hundreds and hundreds of points where it wouldn't have made any difference? I don't know, and I'm just asking.
I don't know the numbers.
Okay. Yeah, fair enough. But, the fact that for those that aren't aware, the voting changed to where everybody had to play their last regular season game, and then they would tally the votes.
Right.
In this year in 74, there were people that had already voted and turned their vote in to the Heisman Committee before this game takes place.
Right.
So they didn't have the change or the option of being able to change their vote, had they had seen this and were that to make a difference. I think it would have, and then you get to see Archie in the Rose Bowl just a few weeks later. Did you do an interview with him too? Didn't they ask the two of you to?
No, never did. We never even discussed anything like that.
Okay.
But I already know that in my mind, I could be wrong. I think when he thinks about the 74 year in that game, I think that sort of bothers him. I mean, if I saw a performance like that, 4 touchdowns and way over in the total offense and the yards, that would bother me too. And then go on to get beat and lose the national championship, that bothered me as well.
Yeah.
But, people think differently, but he has it, and my hat's off to him.
Yeah.
But the people who voted before the game, I think they have to live with that.
Well, you mentioned the Rose Bowl. I sat right about in the corner where this picture was taken there. Describe the feeling, what that's like for a person that has never been before. It is a huge accomplishment to be able to win the Big Ten and to travel out and go to Lowry's and have the beef and get a couple of days out in the sunshine and the change of weather. But for a West Coast team, even if it were Washington or Oregon, a little bit different, closer to home. But for you to be literally within 10 miles of where the Rose Bowl is, and never had played there before, right? My assumption, except for the 72 game. And then what was that like for you, the experience, especially knowing we got a pretty stinking good team here. We're going to, we got a chance to win this thing and the national championship.
We thought our minds, we're going to blow you out.
Yeah.
A lot of guys were pissed off about the trophy, of course, and they wanted to take it out on Ohio State and especially Archie. But that we were motivated. I mean, me not winning the Heisman, that motivated them. And they wanted to let them know they wanted to be the dominant team and win the national title. That's my perspective of it.
Sure. Well, you go into it, right, early on in the ball game, you're getting a few carries, but talk a little bit about, the injury and everything that was a part of that for you.
Well, I got hit late on the sideline. It was by a guy named Pete Cusick. He tore my cartilage in my rib. Painful, so I couldn't go back in. It was too much. So
and a young kid named Ricky Bell comes in for you.
Ricky Bell and Alan Carter.
Yep. Ricky ended up having a great career, but it changed the momentum of the game. They were ahead, especially late, 17 to 10, 11.
Hey, hold on. Can I switch where I'm sitting?
Absolutely. Yep. Bob, you said you've been to Super Bowls, you've been to Rose Bowls, all kinds of stuff. That was another great game, too, the 75 Rose Bowl, January 1st.
Oh, absolutely. Great game.
Well, not if you're a Buckeye, right? Right, Bob?
That's right. Like AD said, though, that was probably the greatest time, baseball and football and everything was unbelievable. It became normal. I mean, it was almost like winning a national championship for most people is a huge. It's almost like we kind of expected it back then. It's very strange. It was like not as big a deal as other parts of the country when they won the national championship because it was kind of what they were doing.
Yeah. Well, and then having the coincidental championships in football and baseball in the same year. Right? When has that ever been done? And certainly not very often. But for you guys to be a part of that, Anthony, are you squared away there? If you wouldn't mind, just tilt your camera up just a little bit. We're getting more chest and less of a headshot.
Well, they're changing it because
okay,
the bookstore is getting crazy.
Yeah, thank you.
See it right there? Yeah, I'm fine. Okay, that's good. Thank you. But sorry about that. But
that's okay. Yeah, we understand. Obviously, they've got some books to sell, so we want to make sure we take care of everybody there at Planet Books there.
Yeah.
In Signal Hill.
Anyway, that Rose Bowl game, we started off strong. Even though Ohio State was leading, but we were determined to come back. I mean, it was an 18-17 game, but it was a seesaw game. It was back and forth. But when I got injured, that changed things. Because I was hot as a pistol going into that game.
Well, you end up winning that. A great, last second touchdown. K. McKay and Calvin Sweeney, if I'm not mistaken, with the 2-point conversion. And
that was Sheldon Diggs.
Sheldon Diggs, please forgive me. Thank you. Yep. You end up winning the national championship, and then you got to go back out on the baseball field and play there. Talk a little bit about that. I mean, no rest for the weary. You've got bad ribs, and you got to go out now. You got to start hitting curveballs.
No, I didn't play my senior year in baseball.
Oh, I didn't know that. I'm sorry.
Didn't play my senior year. I played 72, 3, and 4. I didn't play my senior year, but I was still drafted by the Minnesota Twins.
Talk a little bit about that. The decision and everything with baseball. Go ahead.
First of all, it was an unbelievable situation. The World Football League was there. They were pulling on me. I go in the draft with the Jets. I go in the second round with the Jets. That pissed us off because we thought I was a first rounder. I mean, how do you the 37th pick in the draft. And then baseball, Baltimore didn't give me, it was Minnesota. I really seriously considered doing that, but the money was so great, I couldn't turn it down. The money in the world football was unbelievable, and I was the biggest name coming out of college football in those years. And then you had the other names coming out like Larry Zonka, Jim Kick, and Paul Walker. So we were the biggest names basically coming to the world football. The league didn't like that. I mean, to the point where I always felt that I was blackballed in terms of going to that league, and they didn't want guys going it because it created salary increases, and they were fighting for a TV deal. And I remember, John Bassett, the owner of the Memphis Southmen, he was one of the forefront leaders in the league. And then there was a guy, the commissioner, was Chris Hemmeter. And so I was excited because I was here at home. I was being coached by a Hall of Famer, Tom Fears. As a matter of fact, he's the best pro coach I've ever had. If I'd have had him, then no telling how far I'd have went. Then I had a guy by the name of Babe Dementia, who coaches Chicago Bears and Coach Gail Sears. So I had some good coaches.
Yeah.
So but when the league folded, that ended all of that. And I always tell people, I said, it all depends who drafts you. And as you know, as a former player, it all depends what system you're in, how they use you, and stuff like that. A lot of people get through the wayside if they're not at the right place at the right time. And like Bob's always told me, he says it all depends where you go. It's always timing. I mean, and the thing is, when
Harper, I want to tell you, AD, because I watched all those Southern California Sun games. They had Darryl LaMonica and Pat Hayden as a quarterback, and AD led. I think he had 1,600 yards rushing, and I think he led the league in touchdowns that year. So that was vintage AD that year with the Southern California Sun, before the Tampa Bay offensive line ruined him and Ricky Bell both. But
well, yeah.
I just want to tell you, I'm not. I know Bob always encourages me and stuff, even now at my age. So I'm not proud of my pro career. I mean, I'm just. I know what I could have done, and I thought I was one of the best coming out of school, and I knew if I was in the right situation, I knew I would have flourished. But the thing is, what happened was when I got finished with Tampa Bay and got to the Rams, that was my shot. And as you know, there was a lot of controversy with that as well, because they had 3 number 1 draft choices at 75. I should have been one of those picks. Now that's according to the Rams, and that's what they told me they should have done. They made a mistake. Carroll Rosenblum knew that. He wanted me to come. He wanted me there, USC, and he knew, he saw the marketability off the field as well. But he says, but I want you to be my tailback and also a kick returner. So I had 2 places to go: running the football and being a kick returner.
Yeah.
So I was very excited about that, and Bob can tell you that.
They wanted him to run with Cullen Bryant as the fullback and AD the running back. And what happened? I said it on here in one of these other broadcasts. A lot of controversy. What happened to Carroll Rosenblum, who was an Olympic swimmer, who died in 4 feet of water in Florida, and there was little kids saw men in outfits coming out of the ocean with water diving outfits. So there was a lot of speculation that wise guys took care of that whole thing. And what happened is Steve Rosenblum, who was Carroll's son and a great guy. All the players loved Steve Rosenblum. He was the general manager. I mean, really well liked. She got rid of him. Steve's son, after he died, fired him from the Rams. And that was really basically AD's. If Carroll Rosenblum hadn't had an unfortunate, let's call it, death, AD would have been on top of the world back then, So.
Well, and a great team too. The Rams of the 70s were very competitive. Yes, if you're a Minnesota or a Dallas Cowboy fan, you'd say no, nobody was better than us. But at least the Rams were winning the division every year and dominating. And a good offensive line. They had good quarterback play, et cetera, and a great defense. So that wouldn't have been a bad situation to join. Instead, you go to the Sun, and not the same line, even like what you had at SC, a little bit different. But yeah, you still rushed for 1,200 yards. You led the league in touchdowns. You had a kickoff return for another touchdown. You had one in the air, right, for a receiver, which is critical. Some guys can't do both. So Anthony, your athleticism even then carries over into the professional league. Do you mind me asking, is there anything in particular, if you were a businessman, that you would have done differently with the World League that would have at least given it more oomph? What was the big glaring mistake, other than the fact that they just ran out of money and they had to fold?
Looking back on it, I'd really considered baseball, and looking back on it, I would force a trade with the Jets, and because the Jets had my rights, and I think that year they won 3 games with Joe Namath, and the encouraging thing about that had been me and John Riggins in the same backfield.
Yes, yeah,
but it didn't happen. But I'd have forced the trade somewhere. And then in the allocation draft, McKay got me in that draft, and they got my rights from the Jets. But I wasn't pretty enthused about going to the Buccaneers. But I was getting me back in the NFL. I had a coach that knew me and knew what I could do in certain scenarios on the football field. They had Ricky Bell and I was a teammate, and the ultimate plan was to play us both in the same backfield. That didn't happen because we both ended up getting nicked up down there in Tampa Bay. I mean, we were part of 0-26.
Yeah. Thank you. You're right, and the problems that the transition from, and there are a lot of SC players there, and you get the Selmans, and they end up being Hall of Famers. I understand that completely, but it was just, I don't know what the problem was, but the disconnect between the players, the coaches, the community, the heat. I know that if you overpractice in that type of humidity, you could lose a guy for the entire year, even though he's only during 3 weeks in August. It just, you never get your energy level back. So many problems there in Tampa, ownership, you name it. But they did turn it around quickly by 79. They're playing for the NFC Championship against the Rams.
That was Doug Williams.
Yep.
Hey, Harper, can I show you a picture?
Absolutely, Bob. Here, I'm going to circle.
I sent this picture to you, but you can't. To me, it's one of the greatest photos I've ever seen, where they say a picture is 1,000 words. It's AD, O.J. Simpson, Marcus Allen, Clarence Davis, Ricky Bell, and Mike Garrett standing in front of Tommy Trojan. And Charlie White, for whatever reason, missed the photo, but it's a great photo. I'm going to see if you can see it on my phone if I show it. Yeah, you can see the photo. Isn't that a great picture?
Absolutely.
I mean, what a photo. And then I'm going to show you AD. This is him. We just went to a reunion of the 5 national championship teams, and this is AD, Dave Winfield, AD's friend Kristen, and myself at this thing. It was really a wonderful, wonderful affair. I mean, all the 5 championship guys were there. All the ex-players and everything. It was so nice that Justin Dato did that. They had it at Dato Field.
Yeah.
And it was really a nice affair that they honored the 5 straight national championship teams, which AD was a part of.
Absolutely. And Anthony, I put a picture up here. We had a little conversation yesterday, if we want to let the fans know that, my opportunity to get to meet you and talk about the show. You told me a story about Dave Winfield. I found a picture of him on the mound. Now, is this in the game that you got to bat against him?
I don't know if that's the game. That's the uniform. Like I told you, what happened with me. Went up there left-handed because I was a switch hitter, and Dave Winfield could throw it. I think he was in the mid. I think it was like the mid to 90s, 93 to 95. And I got around on one pitch, hit one down the line, and he threw the next pitch. I just didn't see it. And then I went back to I think Rich Darwell was coming up. He says, AD, what does he have? I said, man, I couldn't see it. It's good to see it. I mean, he was that great of an athlete. I'm
Yeah.
telling
Yeah.
you, being drafted in three sports, the Atlanta Falcons, the Atlanta Hawks, Minnesota Vikings, and then, of course, San Diego Padres. So just the stories you heard about how we beat him and flew to California and started left field for the Padres. I mean, that's amazing.
Well, and then you get to see him along with Bob. Bob kind of ruined the picture, in my opinion. It was great until Bob wanted to get in it, but that's one of the really cool things. The picture of Tommy Trojan and you guys
Oh, that picture is Harper. That's one of the greatest photos I've ever seen because
Oh, I
it's the
know.
history. That's the history was known as running back you,
Yep.
and that was everybody except Charles White, who was not there, but everybody else was there.
He was missing.
Yeah.
Wasn't able to make it that day, but for you to be a part of the folklore, so to speak, and I would imagine, hey, I don't like going to these old timer games all the time. But you know what? That's the cross you have to bear. I would imagine, Anthony, your success, everything that you did, the national championships, all of that. It's amazing, and there are plenty of folks that want to uh, recall and bring up the heritage that you have for obvious reasons, and you get to be a part of that for the rest of your life.
Oh, let me say this to you.
Please.
To be part, like I said, to be part of the USC legacy is a great thing. How many guys can say that they were on 5 national title games in the era where it's the greatest time in NC2A history, in my opinion? I was part of that, and I gave my little contributions to that.
Yep.
And I don't think a lot of people can say that. I mean, when I think about this, and people say to me, say, Anthony, remember you were on 5 national championship teams. I say, who does that? And I've always thought years before to the present day, somebody's going to do that. Somebody's going to repeat that. And
Hey,
somebody,
Harper, there's one of AD's very dear friends, a guy by the name of Brian Kennedy, the field at SC is Brian Kennedy Field. He donated the money for. He's a very, very highly wealthy guy that owns Regency Outdoor Advertising, which they do the billboards all over, the largest independent billboard company.
Yeah, next to Turner, Regency's, they're everywhere. It's amazing.
And he put billboards of AD, 5 national championships, and this is stuff that I thought USC should have done. But Brian Kennedy has done things like that. We're all over LA by the airport and everywhere. You see AD, 5 national championships and all that stuff, So it was really nice to see a dear, dear friend, and he loves AD, by the way. I mean, I couldn't believe it. I go to the Notre Dame SC game, and he's wearing AD's jersey, his actual game jersey he gave him. In other words, he just loves the guy. And Brian Kennedy's probably a billionaire, I would imagine, but just a great guy, just a wonderful, wonderful guy. And AD is his favorite player. He roomed with Hal Bedslow when he was at SC, who was a Minnesota Viking All-American receiver at SC.
He honored me with those. He put up several billboards. It was unbelievable. I mean, I think those things were 20 by 40,
Yeah.
and all over the city of Los Angeles. And he did it 2 times. Unbelievable. Yep. And he has a photo of me now that I gave him of the 102-yard kick return. And he tells me the story about one of his friends. They were both at the game, and he said, "Let's get out of this game. There's no way SC's coming back. This is 1974 now, 24-6 at halftime. He's getting ready to leave." His friend name was John Hamilton. He said, "Oh, sit down. AD's going to just bring it back." And Brian thought he was nuts. And John Hamilton, just out of, I guess, courtesy, Brian just stayed there and just went through the motions. And all of a sudden, here you get this kickoff return, 102 yards. And Brian tells me, says, "Well, I thought we had a shot then." At 102, so he sat there, and then he says he's never seen anything like that. And then for him to honor me with those billboards, I thought that It's unbelievable. As a matter of fact, the university followed this lead the first time he put the billboards up. They honored me on the cover. But he's the one who initiated everything and always has. And I'm really grateful for that.
Well, you've been an initiator in several different ways. Can you share a little bit about what that was like for you? I talked to you a little bit about this. I'm kind of a shoe guy, when it comes to it, and whether it be Adidas or Converse, you wore the Nike. I call them waffle bottoms, but they were a special, unique shoe. Where in a day and age now, where everybody has a shoe named after them, if they want to, and if they have the cachet, you were one of the first. I mean, you're sitting in a room with Phil Knight, a bunch of, not a bunch, but just a couple of little goofballs that are just starting this company. They're basically making cross country and running shoes, and then they want to cross over and get a little bigger market. Farrah Fawcett was on Charlie's Angels wearing a pair of Nikes when she did that skateboard scene. But prior to that, it was you. Can you share a little bit about, what that experience was like for you in terms of just, wanting to wear something other than black Rydell's?
Okay, well, let me tell you, this is going to be a little long-winded.
Please.
1972, we fly up to Northern Oregon. It was raining. And a guy named Bill Bowerman and a guy by the name of Nelson Ferris said, hey, you guys need to try these on the rain on the turf. And okay, they felt life them open. So myself, Lynn Swan, and Sam Cunningham, I believe, we put them on. In pregame warm-up, we kept running out of the shoe. So McKay's got wind of it and said, take those shoes off, and I don't want you to see wear them again. And so, okay, we forgot about it. But that game, I rushed for 205 yards on 25 carries in Rydell's. But after the Washington State game, the UCLA game, the Notre Dame game, of course, the 6 touchdowns, and the Rose Bowl, they were pursuing me to wear the shoe, especially this gentleman by the name of Nelson Ferris. So they pursued me for another year. McKay said, you can't wear those shoes, period. So my senior year, 74, Nelson Ferris comes back, approaches me, and says, hey, man, you got to wear these shoes. I developed these shoes around your running staff. I thought that was a cool thing. Young kid, you developing shoes, just especially for me.
No kidding. Wow. Yeah.
And so I said, any way you can go talk to Coach McKay? I said, yes. I go up and talk to him. So I went up and asked Coach, his secretary her name was Bonnie. I says, Bonnie, is Coach McKay available? I just need to talk to him about 5 minutes. He said, well, wait here and I'll call him. So I'm waiting there in the office. She says, Coach will see you now. So I went in there. I said, Coach, remember those shoes you told us we couldn't wear back in Oregon? You said, yeah, those ones you kept running out of? I said, yeah, well, the shoes is better now, and I really like the way they feel on my feet. And he said, man, I told you couldn't wear the shoe. And I said, well, Coach, man, they're a better shoe now. And I don't know how I convinced him. I said, I just want to wear them. He said, I tell you what, AD, you can wear the damn. He says, you can wear the damn shoe, but they got to be painted black because they were white shoes.
Yeah.
With black bottoms. He said, you can only wear black shoes. So I went downstairs and told them the guys they were so happy. And he said, I'll be back here tomorrow. That was the week of the UCLA game. He comes back with 2 pair. They're painted black. In the week of the game, and everybody thought I was these weird shoes AD has on. So the week of the game, I'm practicing in these shoes, cutting and doing well. People said, man, you're really cutting in those shoes. I said, yeah, because I was a cutter slasher type running back anyway. And so what happened, this is the historical piece of this. We went playing UCLA. We beat them, I think, 34-9, if I'm correct, Bob. Yeah. I rushed for 195 yards and 3 touchdowns that game. In the second quarter of that game, the first play in the second quarter, I remember all this because I've been told this over the years. I break O.J. Simpson's career rushing record in the shoe. Oh, that was big news to them. And, legend has it, and over the years, and whatever you believe it or not, they said that they took everybody, the so small staff out at McDonald's and had Big Macs and had champagne. I don't know how true that is, but it sounds good. And so that was my beginning. And then the next week, Notre Dame, of course, the shoe becomes the first Nike athlete on the cover of Sports Illustrated and I'm the first football player. I get the credit for when it was other guys trying them out, but I'm the one that officially introduced the shoe on the cover of Sports Illustrated. So I'm the first Nike athlete, all athletes on the cover of Sports Illustrated.
And I've got it here up on the screen. It's on the right. And Nike doesn't control any of that stuff. But I know that now in contracts, if you sign with, back in my day, Apex was the competitor, Reebok was the competitor. But now you have Adidas and different brands that you have with Nike. But if you get on the cover of a magazine or something similar to that, there's an incentive bonus that you would get. Not for the collegiate athlete, except now with NIL, I think there probably is one. But again, a first, a trendsetter, the Rolls Royce, the convertible on campus with a beautiful blonde next to you, meeting Muhammad Ali, John Carlos. Anthony, you've led a very, very intriguing life that many people would say, I can't believe he got away with this, that, and the other. But for you to get John McKay to agree to you getting a pair of Nike shoes, and all you had to do was paint them black. Well, Nike did it for you. That's another terrific accomplishment in your life. I treat it as such.
I really appreciate that. If you look back on everything, it's amazing that I'm even got where I got anywhere, because that was controversial in those years. There's nothing,
Sure.
But I mean, it was seriously controversial, and Bob can contest to that, because he was right in the middle of it, all that. He saw it and he witnessed it. And we talk about that all the time. But the fact that I was able to go through that, win the national titles, and be part of that history, I'm grateful for that.
Bob, he's done a lot of great things, but I'm sure you value the friendship and just the person that even if he didn't do any of those, you'd still find a great value in your relationship with Anthony Davis.
As I told you earlier, Harper, he is truly one of the greatest characters I've ever met in my life. And I love characters. I don't, normal people have always kind of bored the piss out of me. But this guy, I don't think I've ever laughed harder with anybody about things. A lot of them we can't talk about on here, but so many laughs over 53 years of laughing. I mean, how can you beat 53 years? They say, what did Milton Berle say? Laughing is like going on instant vacation. And I've been going on instant vacation with this guy for 53 years. How do you beat that?
That's amazing. Absolutely wonderful. Anthony, we're so grateful for your time. I want to be respectful of it. National champion.
I'll send you an invoice.
I'm gonna send it. I'm gonna send it to Bob. Maybe we take you to El Cholo's for a nice dinner there. Two-time national champion. You think you should have won 3. I tend to agree with you if it wasn't for South Bend. And there are a lot of folks, Bob, in South Bend that will not say that he's one of the great characters of all. They can't stand him, and they wanted to hang him in effigy on Saturdays in the fall. Second-team All-American. You were 3 times. You were first-team All-Pac-8, 72, 73. And that's just from the football perspective. You were a national champion in baseball. All the years that you were there, what a great accomplishment. The University of Southern California is so much better because of what Anthony Davis was able to contribute.
Hey,
Go
Harper,
ahead,
I got one other quick story for you.
please.
A few years back, Justin Dato he lives right by the Rose Bowl in Linda Vista there, Justin Dato, his ex-coach, and he had a party at his house. And you walk from his house to the Rose Bowl. Now, this is what I want to tell you about AD's fame. This crap we're talking about is 50 years ago. We walked, it's a 15-minute walk from Justin Dato's front door to the front gate of the Rose Bowl, okay? And luckily, we left early. It took us an hour and a half to get there. May God strike me dead. Everywhere we went, people are having picnics out there. Anthony Davis, they mobbed him. Everywhere we went. We'd walk 10 more feet, then they're telling me, there's AD. It was like something I've never seen. And to think that this happened decades after all the action. So what I'm going to tell you about sports fans, they don't forget greatness, and neither do I.
Well, Bob, have you ever had an occasion where you're with Anthony and somebody doesn't come up and say, "Hey, D, AD, AD, AD"? So they want to know him. They want to touch him. He's like the Pope. He's Mick Jagger everywhere he goes, right?
Absolutely correct.
Yeah. Well, Anthony, again, thank you for spending time with us. We really appreciate it. I'm going to send the invoice to Bob, but again, national champion. This 74 team may not have been as good as the 72, but pretty dang close, right?
It was close.
Yeah.
It wasn't a 72, but it was close.
Well, this is a 74 one right here. I got I got the 72. I showed that earlier. The cover of the magazine is Sports Illustrated, but you know what? Game Day was a pretty nice as well. Not quite as popular, but you had 95,000 people that were getting copies of that every home game.
Yes. Well, I appreciate it. Thank you, Bob. Thank you.
Well, folks, we've had a great time here with one of the great Trojans, Anthony Davis. Obviously, there are some amazing Heisman Trophy winners that USC has had before and after, but we are grateful for the time that AD was able to give to us today. So for Bob Case, for Anthony Davis, I'm Harper LaBelle saying thank you for tuning into the Sports Page with Bob Case. We appreciate you being a part of the show. As always, we want to thank you and wish you a fantastic rest of your